Hey everybody, and welcome back to What's Still in Doing. It's a show about things that I've got going on in my life. As you can see, we are still in the Potter House project room. I swear at some point we're going to get out of here and do something adventurous, but the show is about what I've got going on in my life, and this is pretty much it right now. In the last video, I was working on the entertainment stand, which at this moment is kind of at a standstill. All that I have left to do with it is just fill it with other brass antiques and theming elements, which is going to take some time, and those things are costly. They're just really not in my budget this weekend. So I'll show you guys an update on that once I have it more filled up. Like I said, it's going to take some time, but we'll get there. So I am kind of sporadically moving across the room. Whatever I have in my budget at the time is what I'm going to be working on. Today, we're going to be working on a skull prop. This is a skull, well, it's based off of a skull that I saw in Borgin Burkes in Universal Studios. It's on the back wall right behind the cash registers. It's on the very center of the shelf, and it's got these big horns coming off of it. It just looks super cool. If you remember back from my Oddities and Curiosities haul video, I bought some loose horns, and this is what I had intended on using them for. I should mention I also purchased a skull from Borgin Burkes at Universal Studios. They have these really cool skulls in there, and at the time they were only like $20, so I bought a bunch of them, and I've used them for various projects throughout the room. Now I think that since everything's gotten more expensive over the last couple of years, I think they're like $50 a piece. I probably wouldn't have bought them at $50 a piece, but at 20 bucks they were a steal. So last night I stayed up pretty much all night trying to figure out how I was going to fix these horns to the skull, and there was a lot of trial and error. What I ended up doing, and I'll show it to you now, what I ended up doing was just drilling a hole in each side of the skull and just running a wire coat hanger through there. The skull is hollow, the horns are hollow, which allowed me to run the coat hanger through the skull, and then I filled each horn with some aluminum foil, and then I just shoved it on each end of the coat hanger, and then hot glued the gaps and the horns to the skull. So it doesn't look necessarily pretty right now, but once it's all done and fully themed and painted, you're not going to see that, so it doesn't really matter all that much. I also did some work with a drill. I just took some teeth out. I drilled some small holes around the skull just to give it a little bit more realism. Right now, it doesn't necessarily look real, but once I've got it all painted and aged, it's going to look pretty darn cool. So I've got a lot of stuff that I can do with this today. I have an idea in mind of how I want it to look when it's done, but that could change over the course of this video. I've got a bunch of different things that I can try. If I don't like it, I can take it off and do something else. So it's probably going to be a long video. I hope you guys are ready. Strap in. But yeah, this is what we're going to be doing today. Let's get started. This is what we are working with today. I've got some faux fur, some hemp and some rope and some twine left over from the paper scroll project I did with the bookcase. I've got various different colors of paint. I'm just going to be doing rub outs on this. I have my black rub out that I use all the time, but I also have two different colors of brown paint there that I'm going to be using to make new rub outs. One of them is brown oxide, the other one is chocolate bar, which sounds delicious. I've got my paint brushes, some paper towels, and then I've got hot glue sticks and a hot glue gun. So the plan right now is I'm going to try and cover the exposed hot glue that I was talking about in the beginning of the video with this fake fur. And that's how the one in Borgin Burkes is. There's some fur wrapped around the base of each horn. I'm going to go ahead and try that first. But if I don't like it, my backup plan is to take the fur off and then wrap the base of each horn in one of those twines there, one of those ropes. And then in addition to finishing this skull, I also have a stand that it's going to sit on that I've made out of some wood. And we're going to finish that up and get this whole thing 100% done and ready to go on the cabinet. So that's everything I'm going to be using today. This little guy is begging for some paint. So let's get going. Let's do it. step 1 complete. I've got the fur on the base of each horn, and that looks pretty okay. There is a bit of a seam showing right at the end of the fabric, and I'm thinking I might do some of that twine around the end here just to kind of hide that seam and just add some more theming to it. Like I said before, I wasn't too sure how I was going to feel about the fur on this, but I think it looks pretty okay. I think it looks pretty neat. I don't know. You guys, I'm really picky about this stuff. So right now, I'm feeling okay about it, but who's to say where I'm at in 5 minutes? I might hate it. Let's just keep going and see where it takes us. Alright guys, getting ready to move on to the next step, and I've got all my rub outs ready. All the way to the right I have my black rub out, which I've used many a times in these videos. And then today I mixed 2 new colors. In the center I've got chocolate bar, and all the way to the left I have brown oxide. And I'm mostly going to be using the brown for this skull, and the black in very minimal spots, probably around the eye sockets and in the nose, and around the teeth as well. And I may or may not have stated this before, but the rub outs are really just a little bit of water, paint, and then a whole lot of isopropyl alcohol, and you shake the mess out of it. I prefer to use isopropyl alcohol because it dries a lot quicker. You can just mix the paint with water and it gives you the same effect. However, it takes a little while longer to dry. So you've got to kind of sit the item down and let it dry before moving on to the next step. And I'm way too impatient for that. So the alcohol works best for me, but you do what works best for you. Now before I get started with the paint, kind of wanted to show you what I got here. I may or may not have gone a little bit overboard with the twine. I ended up doing it around the fur on the horns like I had mentioned, and that looked really cool, but I didn't want to stop there. What I ended up doing was looking at photographs from Borgin Burkes from one of my previous trips to Universal, and I found a photo of a skull that's on a coat rack within Borgin Burkes, and it's right to the left of the entrance. So as soon as you walk in the door to the shop, you turn to your left and there's this old wooden coat rack there, and it's completely decorated with this rope twine, skeletons, and skulls. And the one particular photograph that I have had the twine around a skull in a very similar fashion to what I have here. And I just thought that how cool would it be to combine that skull with the one that I was originally intending on recreating. And really, it just makes it look a lot more tribal, which they have a lot of tribal type artifacts within Borgin Burkes. And I don't have a lot of that in this room. Not yet, anyway. But I thought this was a really cool nod. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. Not to mention, it's going a lot quicker than I had thought. I was thinking this video might be 30-35 minutes long, but maybe not. We might be able to get this bad boy done in 15 to 20. So next up, all my rub outs. am feeling the fumes from the isopropyl alcohol. Y'all, if you're gonna use the rub outs, I recommend doing it in a well-ventilated space. I'm shut in this little room, and those fumes are going straight to my head. The skull is all painted. I've got it set off to the side right now so it can dry. I did have some issues with some of the twine coming up as I was painting, so I had to hot glue that back in place. So while that's all drying, I'm going to finish up the stand. The stand you see here is made of 2 parts. The base is from an old cheese board, and it had like the glass cloche over the top of it, the little bell with the handle. And then the top part is some scrap that I had left over from the world globes that I made a while back. I think I showed you guys those in the first video. But this is like an old stair railing, like a banister piece. I just cut that and screwed it to the base. I don't have much to do here other than I need to drill a hole in the top of this for this dowel rod to sink into. And basically the only reason I'm doing that is because right now the skull is hollow, so when I put it on the stand, the skull goes all the way down to the bottom, and I want it to sit up rather high on the stand. So I'm just giving it a little something extra to sit onto. So not a lot to do here, but it's just something I can do really quick while the skull is drying. And then once I get it done, I'm going to throw it on the shelf, give you guys a big reveal. All right, big reveal. Are you guys ready? What do you think? I think it looks great. I think it looks smashing. I'm really satisfied with this, you guys. So quickly to recap what I've done here. Just drilled a couple holes in the skull. Gave it some imperfections around the forehead and around the teeth. Took some teeth out. Attached these horns. Covered the base of the horns with some fur. Wrapped the whole thing in twine. Put 3 different color rub outs on it. And put it on this stand. And it's done. That's another one for the books, you guys. He looks awesome. He looks so awesome. It looks like you can smell it. You know what I mean? Like when you look at it, you're like, yep, I think I can smell that. And it does not smell good. The only thing that I think that it's missing, and this can be added really at any point, but I think it would look so much cooler if I had the lower jaw to the skull hanging from the bottom of the skull there. Just mouth agape, some more twine and some more paint. I think that would really set it off. The hardest part of that would be to locate a lower jaw that fits this size skull. And it's probably something I'm going to have to special order, because I'm not going to be able to find just a lower jaw to a skull in any kind of store around me, which might end up in me ordering several of them and seeing which one works, but I think it'll be worth it. Originally, my intentions were to put this in the center of the apothecary cabinet, but I've got some other ideas in mind for this guy. He deserves to be with other creepy items. You know what I mean? I will say, this is probably the most fragile thing that I've put together so far. If this thing drops, it's over. I already had, like I mentioned before, I already had an issue with some of the twine coming up as I was painting it, but I think it's good now. I glued it all back in place. I think that was just a result of it getting overly wet with the rub outs. It hasn't seemed to pull back up anymore now that I've got it all dried, so it should be good there. And I know that fur's not coming off, so it should be good. As long as when we move, I pack it up real nice and I don't drop it. It should be good to go. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think I nailed it? Or do you think I blew it? Do you think I went over the top? Should I have just gone with the one skull that I was intending on recreating? Or do you think I went the best route by combining the 2 skulls that I found from Borgin Burkes? Well, that's going to do it for today's project. It went so much smoother than I thought it was going to. It took way less time than I thought it was going to. and it turned out looking pretty good. I can't stop thinking about that lower jaw piece though. I'm gonna have to look into seeing if that's a possibility, because I think that'll really set it off. But anyway, as always, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. You'll be able to see stuff like this all the time. You know, at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. But anyway, until then, I'm Dylan, and this is what I've been doing. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bonus footage. Bum, ba-dum, 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 bum, ba. I did it. I did it, you guys. I found another skull online with the lower jaw piece, and it was a perfect fit for this. I only had to buy one instead of several to see which one matched, and just right off the bat, it fit perfectly. It looks great. And just like the rest of the skull, I removed some teeth, drilled some holes, painted it up, wrapped it in twine, and glued it in place. And I am now officially satisfied. I think it looks great. I'm really happy that I did this. It brought the whole thing together. Don't you think? All right. This video's over for real this time. I'll see you guys later. Bye.